In 2014, Sony had massive plans for the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. They don't want to do just one movie. And they don't want to do just a trilogy. They had an entire cinematic universe marked up on their wallpapers. They wanted to do spin-offs, sequels, new villains, and huge stories for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and the villains they'll have and introduced within the films. But despite its massive ambition and promising future for Andrew Garfield, this only one movie would ultimately change those plans effectively. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, so you guys are pretty surprised on what's been screwing around with Andrew's universe. What's up, everybody? My name is Nate, and on this 48th episode of the Road to Avengers Doomsday, we're taking a look at The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a movie filled with incredible action, strong performances, emotional moments, and some major flaws that prevent it from reaching its full potential. So I'm really excited to break down this movie and give you everything on the movie, as well as what went wrong and what happened to the planned films that eventually got canceled due to this movie. So in 2012, following the massive success for The Amazing Spider-Man, Sony realized they have a second light on their hands. So they decided to move forward with the sequel. First off, director Mark Webb had returned along with the cast, and the goal was pretty simple. Make everything bigger. Bigger action, bigger villains, and huge emotional stakes. Unfortunately, like what they always say, bigger doesn't mean better. And I'm about to tell you all why. First off, let's start with what works for this movie. Andrew Garfield is fantastic for this film. To this day, I really believe that Andrew Garfield captures perfectly for Spider-Man's personality. He's funny, he's energetic, and charismatic, and generally feels like Spider-Man every time he puts on the suit. His chemistry with New York City itself works wonderful. Whether he's helping citizens or joking during fights, Garfield makes Spider-Man feel very much alive. Even people who dislike the movie often praise his performance, and for a good reason. The emotional center of the movie is Peter's relationship with Gwen Stacy, with returning actress Emma Stone. Their chemistry between the entire movie is very fantastic. Every scene feels natural, believable, and authentic. Their relationship remains one of the strongest romantic storylines in every Spider-Man film. And because the audience cares about them, the emotional moments hit them really harder. So now let's go over the villain. The film's main villain is Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, who did some films before the hand, and he was a good choice to play Electro. Max Dillon starts off as a lonely and socially awkward employee at Oscorp who becomes obsessed with Spider-Man. After an accident involving electrical eels, he gains electrical powers, and visually, this Electro looks pretty impressive in my opinion. The Times Square fight remains one of the coolest fight scenes in the entire movie. Sometimes he feels a bit intimidated of himself, and other times he feels underdeveloped. Jamie Foxx does his best with the material, but sadly, Electro doesn't reach his full potential. And another major addition is Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn. The actor was just coming off after the major success of Chronicle, and he was a pretty alright of a casting as Harry Osborn. Harry's friendship with Peter and his eventual transformation to the Green Goblin are most important parts of the entire story. But this is where the movie starts to feel very crowded. Harry's storyline revolves too quickly, and it goes way off edge pretty fast. His transformations happens before the audience has fully enough time to fully connect with the character. And that's one of the many pacing issues that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has. The one thing that everyone agrees on in this movie is the action and visuals. They are all pretty fantastic from start to finish. The Spider-Man swinging scenes are breathtaking, and the visual effects look really impressive even in today's standards. Spider-Man moves with speed and agility that helps truly feels like comic book accurate. The action scenes are energetic and exciting, And this may be the best looking Spider-Man in terms of the movement of web slinging. Until like later that Tom Holland would do that in his future Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, here's the big problem with this movie. This film is trying to do too much and everything all at once. This movie wants to be a Spider-Man story, a Harry Osborn story, an Electro story, a Gwen Stacy story, a setup for future spin-offs, and a setup for the Sinister Six movie. That is a whole lot of stuff crammed into one movie. And instead of focusing on a few strong ideas, this movie spreads itself way too thin. And sadly, that overall hurts the entire experience of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And then we reach the scene. The moment comic book fans had feared for years to come as soon as The Amazing Spider-Man was released and Emma Stone was cast as Gwen Stacy. The tragic passing of Gwen Stacy. It's heartbreaking, but it's beautifully acted and devastating. Garfield's reaction is absolutely incredible. You feel Peter's pain, his guilt, and his heartbreak. And for me personally, this is what remains one of the saddest moments of every Spider-Man film. And I appreciate the filmmakers recreating the moment what happened to Gwen Stacy. It's pretty tragic of what happened to her. I do feel bad. Well, now let's move on to the other part. Despite some strengths, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 sadly underperformed at the box office compared to expectations. Sony's plans for the entire Spider-Man universe began to crumble before their very eyes. But people thought this would be the end of Spider-Man's movie career. But eventually, a historic agreement between Sony and Marvel Studios would bring Spider-Man into the MCU. And while Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man journey seemed over, fans never forgot about him. Years later, in 2021, audiences would get to see him again in a return that nobody expected. And that'll be a video I will tell you guys in a future video. So keep out for that on my YouTube channel. And now I'm going to tell you guys my thoughts on the movie. Personally, I think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of the most frustrating superhero movies ever made. Because there's so much good here. Andrew Garfield is excellent. Emma Stone is excellent. The action is excellent. And even the visuals are excellent. But the story feels so overloaded, sadly. There's too many villains, too many subplots, and too much universe building. I don't hate the movie, in fact. I enjoy it. But I also see there's some very missed potential. But in conclusion, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 remains one of the most debated Spider-Man movies ever made. Some fans love it, others dislike it, but most people agree on one thing. Andrew Garfield deserves so much more than this. The film may have not launched the cinematic universe Sony hoped for, but it left behind memorable performances, emotional moments, and some of the best Spider-Man action put on screen. And ultimately, its story hasn't been quite finished yet. As the road to Avengers Doomsday continues, Spider-Man's future would soon become brighter than anyone would have imagined. If you enjoyed this episode of Neat Reviews, make sure you give it a like, comment, and subscribe down so you would see more episodes of the road to Avengers Doomsday. And leave no doubt in the comments below. Do you think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is overrated? Or do you think it deserved the criticism it received? But anywho, thanks for watching. Remember, my videos are just my thoughts on movies and shows I watch. And I hope you guys have a great day. And I'll see you on the other side.